Listen carefully. This is not a message you can understand in 1 minute. That uneasy feeling you've been carrying didn't appear suddenly, and it won't make sense instantly. Most people ignore it. Some distract themselves from it. Others label it as stress. But if you stay with me, piece by piece, you will recognize yourself in this message. And by the end, you will understand something most people only realize. After years of regret, unease is Allah's mercy speaking before the heart is lost. Not every mercy comes wrapped in comfort. Many of us believe that if Allah loves us, then our hearts should always feel calm. Our lives should always feel easy, and our choices should never feel heavy. But life does not work that way, and the heart does not work that way. Sometimes the greatest mercy comes in a form that shakes us from the inside. Sometimes Allah loves you so much that He refuses to let you feel comfortable while walking in the wrong direction. You see, comfort is dangerous when it comes at the cost of your soul. If Allah truly wanted to leave you, He would let you enjoy every wrong step. He would allow you to move farther and farther away without any resistance inside. You would sin and feel nothing. You would disobey and feel peaceful. You would forget Him, and your heart would remain quiet. That silence of the heart is not peace. It is loss. But when Allah loves you, He does not allow that silence. Instead, He places a gentle disturbance inside you, a quiet restlessness, a heaviness that appears without warning. You may be sitting among people, smiling, laughing, yet your heart feels tight. You may lie down at night, physically tired, yet unable to rest. You may achieve something you wanted for so long, yet instead of joy, you feel empty. And you wonder, what is wrong with me? Nothing is wrong with you. Something is right with you. That feeling is not weakness. It is awareness. It is Allah refusing to let your heart sleep while your soul is drifting away. Allah knows how easily we get distracted, how easily we get attached, how easily we mistake temporary pleasure for real happiness. So He places a signal inside the heart, not loud, not violent, but persistent. A feeling that returns again and again. A feeling that does not disappear, no matter how much you distract yourself. You scroll, you watch, you laugh, you keep busy. But when everything becomes quiet, the feeling returns. That is not coincidence. That is care. Allah knows that sometimes the only way to save a heart is to make it uncomfortable with what is harming it. Think about it. If fire did not burn, we would never pull our hand away. Pain protects us. Discomfort saves us. In the same way that unease is saving your soul, Allah is saying, this path is not safe for you. This habit is hurting you. This distance from me is costing you more than you realize. And He says it, not through thunder, not through fear, but through the heart. A heart that still feels, a heart that still reacts, a heart that still remembers Him. There are people who live for years in wrong, and their hearts never protest. They sleep peacefully. They feel no guilt. They feel no pullback. That is not strength. That is danger. So when your heart feels uneasy, do not curse it. Do not silence it. Do not shame yourself for it. Thank Allah for it. Because it means He has not given up on you. It means your heart is still alive, still soft, still capable of returning. That unease is not there to accuse you. It is there to guide you. Allah knows that if He waits too long, habits become chains. Distance becomes normal. Wrong begins to feel right. So He interrupts your comfort early. He shakes your peace gently. Before the shaking becomes severe, that tightness in your chest, that feeling of something is missing, that quiet sadness that has no clear reason, it is not random sadness. It is your soul missing its connection. It is your heart longing for alignment. It is Allah reminding you that you were created for more than this emptiness, more than chasing, more than pleasing people, more than feeding the body while starving the soul. And Allah does not shout this reminder. He whispers it over and over. Come back. Not tomorrow. Not when everything is perfect. Not when life becomes easier. Come back now. Before the heart becomes used to distance. Before the unease turns into numbness. Before the reminder turns into regret. That unease is Allah's mercy, speaking before the heart is lost. Allah is gentle in the way He calls His servants back. He does not expose you in front of people. He does not embarrass you. He does not shout your mistakes to the world. Instead, He speaks to you privately through your own heart. That is why the unease you feel is often something only you understand. Others may look at your life and say, everything seems fine. But Allah knows what they cannot see. He knows the weight you carry inside. He knows the confusion that comes and goes. He knows the quiet tears that fall when no one else is watching. And because He knows, He reaches out in the most personal way possible. Through your heart, Allah knows that the heart is the center of every change. If the heart is awake, the person can still be saved. So He places reminders there. Sometimes it comes as guilt after a wrong action. Sometimes it comes as emptiness after a pleasure. Sometimes it comes as restlessness. Even when life appears successful, each time Allah is asking a simple question, is this really what you were created for? And deep inside, the heart already knows the answer. Many people misunderstand this feeling. They think it means something is wrong with them. They think it means they are broken, weak, or failing. But that is not true. That unease is not proof of failure. It is proof of faith still breathing. A dead heart does not feel pain. A living heart does. That discomfort is the heart saying, I was made for closeness to Allah. I was not made for distance. I was not made to be ignored. Allah allows you to feel that pull because He wants you to choose Him freely. He does not force you. He invites you. He lets you feel the difference between a heart connected and a heart distracted. And every time you ignore that feeling, Allah does not immediately turn away. He gives time. He gives chances. He sends reminder after reminder, but the reminders change. At first, they are soft. A thought, a feeling, a moment of awareness. If ignored, the heart begins to feel heavier. Not because Allah is cruel, but because distance always weighs more. And if the heart continues to resist, the unease slowly fades. That is the most dangerous stage, not when the heart hurts, but when it stops feeling anything at all. That is why the Prophet ﷺ taught us to ask Allah for a heart that remains firm, soft, and aware. Because a heart that feels discomfort is still reachable. Allah loves when a servant turns back early, before habits harden, before wrong becomes identity, before regret becomes unbearable. And that is why He disturbs your comfort now, not later. He wants your return to be easy, your repentance to be light, your healing to be quick. The unease you feel is Allah making the path back visible. He is saying, you are not too far. You are not forgotten. You are not abandoned. Just take one step back. And Allah promises that when you take one step toward Him, He comes running toward you. That is the beauty of this mercy. The same unease that once felt heavy begins to disappear. The moment you turn back sincerely, your chest feels lighter, your sleep feels calmer, your heart feels cleaner. Not because life suddenly becomes perfect, but because your soul is no longer fighting itself. So my dear brothers and sisters, do not fear that discomfort inside you. It is not your enemy. It is not your weakness. It is Allah's love reaching you before the heart is lost. Answer that call. While it is still gentle, return. While the door is still wide open, because that unease is not meant to break you. It is meant to bring you back home. The heart recognizes truth long before the mind accepts it. The heart is very honest. People can hide things. Faces can smile. Words can sound confident. But the heart does not know how to pretend. It reacts before we explain. It feels before we decide. It knows before we accept. The mind is powerful, yes, but it is also very clever at making excuses. The mind can say, it's not that bad. Everyone is doing it. I will change later. Allah is forgiving. And all of this may sound reasonable. All of this may sound logical, but the heart responds differently. The heart tightens. The heart feels uneasy. The heart becomes restless. Not because it wants to trouble you, but because it recognizes truth. Even when you are trying not to, Allah created the heart in a special way. He placed inside it a natural sense of right and wrong. Before we are taught, before we are reminded, before we hear any lecture. That is why even a child feels guilt after doing something wrong. That feeling did not come from knowledge. It came from the heart. As we grow older, the mind becomes louder. It learns how to defend mistakes. It learns how to explain away wrong. It learns how to quiet the heart. But the heart never fully forgets. You may ignore it for a while. You may push it aside. You may distract yourself, but it always returns. That quiet voice inside that says, this isn't you. This isn't right. This isn't what you were created for. That voice is not confusion. It is clarity. It is the heart seeing clearly while the mind is still debating. That is why you can make a decision that looks perfect on the outside, yet feels heavy on the inside. People may congratulate you. They may admire you. They may say you are doing well, but your heart feels restless. Why? Because the heart is not impressed by appearances. It is connected to truth. The heart does not care how something looks. It cares what something does to your soul. You may convince your mind that a certain habit is harmless, but the heart feels the damage. You may convince your mind that a certain relationship is fine, but the heart feels the distance from Allah. You may convince your mind that you still have time, but the heart feels the loss of that time. This is why unease appears. Even when everything seems logical, the heart is responding to what the mind is refusing to face. And Allah allowed this on purpose. If the heart did not speak, we would destroy ourselves calmly. We would walk away from Allah with confidence and comfort. So Allah gave the heart a voice, not a loud one, not an aggressive one, a gentle but persistent one, a feeling. That feeling shows up at strange times. When you are alone, when you are quiet, when distractions stop working, it shows up in moments of reflection, moments before sleep, moments after wrongdoing, moments when the soul is honest and you feel something inside. You say, this path is not giving you peace. This choice is costing you something. You are losing yourself. That is not fear. That is not weakness. That is awareness. The heart is ahead of the mind. The heart sees the ending. While the mind is still enjoying the beginning, the heart feels the distance before the mind admits it exists. That is why Allah asks us to protect our hearts, because once the heart is ignored long enough, the mind takes control completely. And when the mind leads without the heart, it leads toward justification, not truth. This is why some people do wrong and feel no pain, not because they are strong, but because the heart has been silenced. So when your heart feels uneasy, do not rush to label it as anxiety. Do not rush to silence it. Do not rush to distract yourself from it. Sit with it. Ask yourself quietly, what is my heart seeing that my mind is avoiding? Because that discomfort is often the truth arriving early. The heart is trying to protect you before the consequences arrive. Allah allowed your heart to feel before you fall too far. That is mercy. And the more honest you are with yourself, the clearer that voice becomes. But the more you argue with it, the quieter it grows. That is why responding early is easier than returning later. The heart recognizes truth instantly. The mind takes time. And Allah, in His wisdom, placed both inside you so you would have guidance even when logic fails. When the heart speaks and the mind argues, a quiet struggle begins inside the soul. The heart does not shout. It does not demand attention. It does not force you to listen. It simply feels, and that feeling is often uncomfortable because truth is rarely convenient. The heart does not explain itself in long sentences. It does not give you reasons and evidence. It does not debate. It simply tightens. It feels heavy. It feels disturbed. And the mind quickly steps in. The mind says, "You're overthinking. You're too sensitive. This is normal. Everyone lives like this." And slowly, the mind tries to quiet the heart. At first, it works only for a short while. You distract yourself. You stay busy. You surround yourself with noise. But the heart waits, because truth does not disappear just because it is ignored. It waits for silence. It waits for honesty. It waits for that moment when you are alone with yourself. And then it speaks again. That is why some of the strongest feelings come late at night. When the phone is put down, when the room is dark, when no one is watching, that is when the heart is free to speak. You may feel a sudden sadness, a sudden emptiness, a sudden question inside you. What am I doing with my life? Why don't I feel peace? Why does my heart feel far? These questions are not random thoughts. They are signals. The heart is reminding you of what the mind keeps delaying. You see, the mind loves comfort. It loves what feels good now. It loves what avoids change. The heart loves truth, even when truth hurts. That is why following the heart often feels difficult at first, but peaceful later. And following the mind alone often feels easy at first, but heavy later. Allah created it this way so you would learn the difference. When the heart warns you, it is seeing beyond the moment. It is seeing the direction you are heading. It is seeing the effect on your soul. It is seeing the distance growing slowly. The mind, however, is focused on today, on pleasure, on approval, on comfort. That is why many people say, "I didn't feel anything was wrong at first." Yes, because the mind was satisfied. But the heart felt it, and the heart tried to speak. Some people listen early, they pause, they reflect, they adjust their direction, and their return is gentle. Others keep arguing with the heart. They tell themselves, "I'll change later. I'm still young. I have time." And the heart grows tired. Not because it stops caring, but because it has been ignored too long. This is one of the greatest dangers. Not sin itself, but becoming comfortable with sin. Comfort does not mean peace. Comfort can mean numbness. And numbness is when the heart has been pushed aside repeatedly. Allah warns us of this, because once the heart is numb, truth feels heavy instead of beautiful. Reminders feel annoying instead of comforting. Prayer feels burdensome instead of calming. Good advice feels judgmental instead of helpful. Not because the truth changed, but because the heart is wounded. And still, Allah does not give up easily. He sends reminders in different ways. A verse you hear unexpectedly, a lecture that speaks exactly to you, a hardship that slows you down, a loss that makes you reflect. All of this is Allah trying to wake the heart again. Because Allah knows that once the heart wakes up, the mind will follow. That is why true change never begins with information. It begins with feeling, a feeling of honesty, a feeling of humility, a feeling of need. The heart recognizes truth long before the mind is ready to accept it. And when you finally stop arguing with that feeling, something beautiful happens. The struggle inside you calms. You stop trying to justify. You stop trying to defend. You stop trying to explain. You simply admit, yes, my heart was right. And in that moment, Allah opens doors you did not expect. He replaces heaviness with clarity, confusion with direction, restlessness with peace. Not because your life becomes easy, but because your heart and mind are no longer fighting each other. They are aligned. So my dear brothers and sisters, When your heart feels uneasy, do not rush to silence it. Listen to it gently. That feeling is not your enemy. It is not your weakness. It is the part of you that still recognizes truth. And as long as the heart recognizes truth, return is always possible. Allah makes the wrong place uncomfortable, so you will leave. Sometimes Allah does not push you out of a place. He does something far more gentle and far more wise. He makes you uncomfortable there. You may be standing exactly where you once prayed to be. You may be living a life you once wanted. You may be surrounded by people you once felt attached to. Yet your heart no longer rests. You wake up feeling heavy. You move through your day feeling unsettled. You return home feeling tired in a way sleep cannot fix. And you ask yourself, why does this no longer feel right? That question itself is already a sign. Allah knows that human beings resist sudden change. We hold on tightly to what feels familiar, even when it hurts us, even when it drains us, even when it pulls us away from Him. So Allah, in His mercy, does not always remove us immediately. Instead, He loosens our grip. He slowly removes peace from what is harming us, so that we do not fight to stay. He allows discomfort to grow, so that leaving becomes easier than remaining. You see, if Allah were to pull you out forcefully, you might resent the change. You might look back with longing. You might return again. But when Allah makes your heart uncomfortable, you leave willingly. You leave knowing that you cannot stay. This discomfort is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of preparation. Allah's preparing you for movement, for growth, for a new chapter. But growth always begins with inner tension. Think about it. A seed must break before it grows. Comfort would keep it buried forever. In the same way, if your heart remained comfortable in every place, you would never move. So Allah allows restlessness to enter your heart, not because He dislikes you, but because He loves you too much to let you remain where your soul is shrinking. Sometimes the discomfort comes from people. Conversations feel empty. Company feels draining. You feel lonely even when surrounded. Sometimes it comes from habits. Things you once enjoyed no longer satisfy you. They leave you emptier than before. Sometimes it comes from achievements. You reach a goal, yet feel no joy. And you wonder, why doesn't this make me happy anymore? Because Allah is teaching you something important. Not every door that opens is meant to be lived behind forever. Not every chapter is meant to be the final one. And not every attachment is meant to last. Allah shifts your heart before He shifts your life. Because once the heart moves, the body follows. But we often misunderstand this phase. We think something is wrong with us. We think we are ungrateful. We think we are broken. But in reality, we are being guided. Allah is gently telling you, this season has ended. This place has taught you what it needed to teach you. It is time to move forward. And notice how Allah does this. He does not always close doors loudly. He makes staying painful. You may try harder. You may force yourself to feel content. You may tell yourself to be patient. Yet the discomfort remains. Because patience is not meant to trap you in harm. Patience is meant to help you move with wisdom. There is a difference between patience with difficulty and attachment to harm. Allah removes peace, not to break you, but to protect you. Because sometimes the worst thing is not hardship. It is comfort in the wrong place. That comfort can keep you stuck for years. So Allah replaces comfort with unease, not to punish you, but to free you. The heart knows when it has outgrown a place, it feels cramped, restricted, restless. And that restlessness is a sign of growth. A child who has outgrown clothes feels uncomfortable wearing them. The clothes did not become bad. The child simply grew. In the same way, some environments, habits, and relationships are not evil. They are simply no longer suitable for who you are becoming. Allah is expanding your heart, and expansion hurts before it feels spacious. That is why this phase feels confusing. You are not yet where you are meant to be, but you can no longer stay where you are. That space in between is uncomfortable, but it is necessary. Allah is teaching you to trust His movement, to trust that if peace has left a place, it is for a reason. Not every departure is loss. Some departures are protection. Not every ending is punishment. Some endings are mercy. And when you finally let go, you will look back and realize that Allah was guiding you gently all along. When Allah begins to make a place uncomfortable, He is not asking you to panic. He is asking you to pay attention. Most people fear change. Not because change is bad, but because the unknown feels frightening. Even when a place hurts us, it still feels familiar. And familiarity feels safe. So we stay in environments that drain us. We stay in habits that weaken us. We stay around people who pull us away from Allah. And we tell ourselves, at least I know what this is. Allah knows this weakness in us. That is why He does not always open a new door immediately. He first makes the old door uncomfortable. He allows your heart to feel tight. Every time you stand in that space, He allows your soul to feel tired. Every time you repeat that habit, He allows your spirit to feel lonely, even when you are surrounded. This is Allah saying, this is no longer safe for your heart. And yet, we often respond by trying harder to stay. We force smiles. We force patience. We force acceptance. But peace cannot be forced. Peace is either there or Allah has removed it. When Allah removes peace, no amount of effort can bring it back. Because peace is not a product of circumstances. It is a gift from Allah. And Allah removes gifts only to protect something greater. Sometimes He removes peace to protect your faith. Sometimes He removes comfort to protect your character. Sometimes He removes familiarity to protect your future. But in the moment, all you feel is loss. You feel fear. You feel uncertainty. You feel like you are standing on unstable ground. And that is where trust begins. Allah does not ask you to see the whole path. He asks you to take one honest step. The heart already knows where it cannot stay. It already knows what is no longer working. It already knows what is draining its connection with Allah. The struggle is not about knowing. The struggle is about letting go of what once felt right, letting go of what once brought comfort, letting go of what once defined you. And Allah understands how painful that is. That is why He does not rush you. He gives signs. He gives time. He gives space. But the discomfort does not leave, because the lesson must be learnt. Staying where Allah has removed peace will only increase your pain. Leaving even with fear will slowly restore your strength. And when you finally decide to move, something beautiful happens. The fear does not disappear immediately. The uncertainty remains for a while, but the heart feels lighter because it is no longer fighting Allah's direction. You may not see the next chapter yet. You may not understand the wisdom yet, but peace begins to return. Not all at once, but gently. And later, when you look back, you will realize something important. The place you were afraid to leave was the place Allah was saving you from. The discomfort you resented was the mercy that freed you. The unease you questioned was the guidance that protected you. Allah never removes peace without replacing it with something better. But better does not always mean easier. Sometimes it means closer to Him. And closeness to Allah is the greatest form of peace. So, my dear brothers and sisters, when your heart feels uncomfortable where you are, do not ignore it. Sit with it. Reflect on it. Ask Allah for clarity, because Allah does not disturb your heart without a purpose. And when you trust Him enough to move, even while afraid, He walks with you. And that is when you realize that the discomfort was never meant to break you. It was meant to move you. not everything that feels easy is good for the soul. Not everything that feels easy is good for the soul. We often assume that if something comes smoothly, if doors open quickly, if there is little resistance, then it must be right. But ease alone is not a sign of acceptance. Allah tests us not only with hardship, but also with comfort. Sometimes the greatest test is when something wrong feels easy. It feels natural. It feels enjoyable. It feels harmless. And that is why it is dangerous. Because when something feels easy, we stop questioning it. We stop reflecting. We stop checking our intentions. We stop asking whether it is pleasing Allah. We simply move forward. Many people say, if it were wrong, it wouldn't be this easy. But that is not always true. Some doors open quickly, not because they are good, but because they lead to lessons. Allah allows ease sometimes to reveal what we truly desire. Is it comfort or is it closeness to Him? You see, the soul is subtle. It can be pulled slowly without realizing it is drifting. A small compromise here, a small justification there. Nothing drastic, nothing shocking. Just enough ease to make you stay. And slowly, distance grows. Distance from prayer. Distance from remembrance. Distance from sincerity. Not because you planned it, but because ease made you careless. This is why the heart becomes uneasy, even when things look perfect. Your mind may say, this is working, this is fine, this is beneficial, but the heart feels heavy. Because the heart understands that ease without barakah is emptiness. True goodness does not always feel easy at first. Sometimes goodness requires effort, discipline, patience, sacrifice. And the soul resists that. The soul prefers what gives quick comfort over what builds lasting peace. That is why Allah warns us gently. He allows something to feel easy, but He removes peace from it. So you enjoy it, yet you feel restless. You succeed, yet you feel empty. You gain, yet you feel lost. That emptiness is not confusion, it is clarity. Allah is showing you that ease is not the same as goodness. That comfort is not the same as contentment. That pleasure is not the same as peace. Peace comes from alignment. Alignment with purpose. Alignment with values. Alignment with Allah. When something pulls you away from Allah, even if it feels easy, the heart notices and the heart protests. You may try to ignore it. You may say, I'll balance it later. I'll fix it eventually. It's not affecting my faith. But the heart feels the shift. The heart feels the subtle distance before the mind admits it exists. This is why Allah reminds us to look at outcomes, not just openings. A door opening does not mean you should walk through it. Some doors open to test restraint. Some open to test sincerity. Some open to test priorities. And Allah gives you a heart to sense the difference. That heart tightens when ease is pulling you away from Him, and it softens when difficulty brings you closer. That is a sign of awareness, a sign of guidance. Not everything that feels easy will feel peaceful, and not everything that feels difficult will harm you. Some difficulties cleanse the heart. Some struggles refine the soul, and some ease distracts. That is why the believer does not chase ease blindly. They chase truth. They ask, is this bringing me closer to Allah or slowly pulling me away? Because the soul always pays a price. If not immediately, then eventually. And Allah, in His mercy, lets you feel the cost early through unease. So when your heart feels disturbed by something that seems easy, do not ignore that feeling. It is not ingratitude. It is guidance. Allah is teaching you that the heart needs more than comfort. It needs meaning. It needs purpose. It needs Him. Ease can be very deceptive. It can make the wrong feel normal and the harmful feel harmless. When something feels easy, we often stop asking questions. We stop asking, where is this taking me? Who am I becoming because of this? Is this bringing me closer to Allah or quietly pulling me away? Ease can blind the heart. If the heart is not awake, that is why Allah does not judge matters by how quickly doors open, but by what happens to your heart after you walk through them. Some people say, I found peace here, but what they often mean is, I found comfort. Peace and comfort are not the same. Comfort relaxes the body. Peace settles the soul. Comfort can exist even when the heart is far from Allah. Peace cannot. Peace only comes when the heart is aligned with what it was created for. That is why some people live very comfortable lives, yet feel restless inside. They have everything they wanted, yet something feels missing. That missing feeling is not imagination. It is the soul saying, this is not enough. Allah created the soul with a hunger that only He can satisfy. No amount of ease, pleasure, or success can replace that connection. So Allah allows you to feel emptiness, even when things are going well, not to punish you, but to guide you. You see, if wrong choices were always painful immediately, no one would make them. And if right choices were always easy immediately, everyone would follow them. But life does not work like that. Allah allows ease in some wrong paths as a test. Will you choose what feels good now or what will be good for your heart later? And Allah allows difficulty in some right paths as a purification. Will you be patient enough to see the beauty that follows? This is why the believer measures life differently, not by ease alone, not by comfort alone, but by closeness to Allah. If something makes prayer heavy, that is a sign. If something slowly steals time from remembrance, that is a sign. If something feeds the ego but weakens humility, that is a sign. Even if it feels easy, Allah gives you these signs before consequences arrive. Because delayed regret is far more painful than early discomfort. Many people only realize that ease misled them when it is already difficult to leave, when habits are deep, when attachments are strong, when distance from Allah feels normal, but Allah, out of mercy, alerts the heart early. He allows you to feel restless while there is still time to turn back. That is why the heart feels heavy, even when everything seems fine. It is Allah saying, this comfort is costing you something. And if you listen early, the return is gentle. But if you ignore it, the lesson becomes harder. Allah does not rush punishment. He gives chances. He gives reminders. He gives feelings. And only when all of that is ignored do consequences speak louder. That is why choosing what is harder now can be easier later. Praying when it feels difficult brings peace later. Leaving what feels easy but wrong brings clarity later. Holding on to values when compromise feels tempting brings honor later. And Allah replaces empty ease with real tranquility. A tranquility that does not depend on circumstances. A tranquility that stays even when life becomes difficult. So my dear brothers and sisters, do not chase ease blindly. Chase what brings your heart closer to Allah. Because ease without Allah is temporary comfort, but closeness to Allah is lasting peace. And when you choose what is right, even if it feels heavy at first, Allah lightens your heart in ways you never expected. That is the difference between what feels easy and what is truly good. Ignoring the unease slowly hardens the heart. The heart is soft by nature. Allah created it that way so it can feel, so it can respond, so it can turn back quickly when it makes a mistake. But the heart does not remain soft automatically. It stays soft only when it is listened to. When the heart sends a warning and we respond, the heart becomes clearer. But when the heart sends a warning and we ignore it, something dangerous begins to happen slowly, quietly, without us realizing it. The heart begins to harden, not suddenly, not dramatically, but step by step. At first, the heart whispers, a small discomfort after a wrong action, a feeling of guilt, a quiet sense that something is not right. That is Allah's mercy. That is the heart still alive. But if that whisper is ignored, the heart speaks again, a little louder. The discomfort lasts longer. The guilt returns more often. The unease becomes heavier. And again, we are given a choice. Listen, or ignore. Many people choose to ignore, not because they are evil, but because ignoring feels easier. Listening requires change. Ignoring allows continuation. So we distract ourselves. We stay busy. We surround ourselves with noise. We fill every quiet moment so the heart does not speak. But the heart is patient. It waits. And when it is ignored again and again, the heart begins to protect itself. It says, if you do not want to feel, I will stop hurting you. And that is when numbness begins. Not peace, not calm, numbness. You no longer feel strong guilt. You no longer feel strong discomfort. Wrong feels normal. Distance feels ordinary. Silence feels acceptable. And that is far more dangerous than pain. Because pain tells you something is wrong. Numbness tells you nothing. A numb heart does not cry out. It does not warn. It does not resist. It simply adapts. And adaptation to wrong is one of the greatest losses of the soul. This is why ignoring unease is not harmless. Every time you silence that feeling, it becomes easier to silence it again. Every time you justify wrong, it becomes easier to justify it again. And slowly, what once felt heavy now feels light. What once disturbed you now feels normal. What once made you uncomfortable now feels acceptable. And people say, I don't feel anything anymore. They think this is strength. It is not. It is a sign that the heart has been wounded repeatedly. Allah warns us of this because once the heart is hardened, a return becomes more difficult. Not impossible, but heavier. Because now truth feels uncomfortable. Reminders feel annoying. Advice feels judgmental. Not because the reminders changed, but because the heart changed. And Allah does not allow this to happen quickly. He gives time. He gives chances. He gives signs. He sends discomfort so the heart can stay alive. That unease you feel is like pain in the body. If you ignore pain, the illness grows. If you address pain early, healing is easier. The heart works the same way. Unease is not there to shame you. It is there to save you. But when it is ignored repeatedly, Allah allows the heart to experience the consequence of neglect. And that consequence is hardness. Hardness does not mean cruelty. It means distance. Distance from feeling, distance from humility, distance from Allah. A hard heart prays, but without presence. A hard heart hears reminders, but without reflection. A hard heart commits wrong, but without regret. And that is a frightening place to be, because the heart no longer pushes back. This is why the Prophet ﷺ used to seek protection from a heart that does not feel. Because a heart that feels pain can still be healed. A heart that feels nothing is in danger. So when you feel uneasy, do not rush to escape it. Do not silence it immediately. Sit with it. Ask yourself quietly, why do I feel this? Because that question can save you years of regret. Allah does not expect perfection. He expects honesty. He expects effort. He expects you to listen when the heart speaks. Every time you respond to that discomfort, the heart softens. Every time you turn back quickly, the heart becomes stronger. Every time you choose Allah over convenience, the heart becomes clearer. And the opposite is also true. Every time you ignore the heart, it becomes harder to hear. Every time you choose comfort over conscience, the heart grows quieter. That is why returning early is a mercy. Returning late is heavy, but returning is always possible. Even when the heart has been ignored for a long time, Allah's mercy does not disappear. A heart can harden, yes, but it is never beyond repair. As long as Allah is still calling it back. Hardness does not happen overnight, and healing does not happen overnight either. But Allah opens doors the moment sincerity returns. Sometimes a hardened heart does not feel guilt immediately. It does not cry easily. It does not react strongly, and that can be frightening. A person may say, I want to feel something again. I want my heart to soften. I want to care. That desire itself is a sign of life, because a completely dead heart does not even ask to be healed. Allah sees that desire and Allah responds gently. He does not shame the servant. He does not say, you waited too long. Instead, He sends small openings, a reminder that suddenly touches you, a verse that feels different than before, a moment of weakness that brings humility, a tear that surprises you. These are signs that the heart is thawing. But here is something important to understand. When the heart has been numb, the return of feeling can be uncomfortable. Pain returns before peace. Regret returns before relief. Tears return before calm. And some people panic at this stage. They say, I was fine before. Why does this hurt now? But this pain is healing. Just like when a limb regains feeling after being numb, the sensation can hurt, but it is proof of recovery. Allah allows the heart to feel pain again, because pain reconnects us to truth. Pain humbles us. Pain slows us down. Pain reminds us that we need Allah. And slowly, as the heart responds again and again, something beautiful happens. The heart softens, not all at once, not dramatically, but quietly. You begin to care again. You begin to feel regret again. You begin to feel closeness again. Prayer starts to feel meaningful. Remembrance starts to feel calming. Silence starts to feel safe. And the same heart that once felt numb now feels alive. This is why Allah never stops calling. He knows the heart better than we do. He knows that no matter how hard it becomes, it can soften again when it turns back to Him. But here is the key. The heart softens when we stop running from discomfort, when we stop silencing unease, when we stop numbing ourselves with distractions, when we allow the heart to feel what it needs to feel, because feelings guide us. They are not enemies. They are signs. Allah placed them inside us so we would not lose ourselves. So when unease returns, do not fear it. Do not say, I wish I didn't feel this. Say instead, Alhamdulillah, my heart is awake, because a heart that feels pain can still repent. A heart that feels regret can still return. A heart that feels unease is still being guided, and Allah loves that heart. He loves the servant who listens early. He loves the servant who admits weakness. He loves the servant who says, Oh Allah, my heart is struggling. And Allah promises that He will never turn away a heart that turns toward Him. So my dear brothers and sisters, do not ignore the unease. Do not silence the discomfort. It may feel heavy, but it is saving you, because the greatest danger is not feeling too much, it is feeling nothing at all. And as long as your heart feels, Allah's door remains open. Always, truth will surface, either softly or forcefully. Truth is patient. It does not rush. It does not panic. It does not disappear. Truth waits. You may avoid it. You may delay it. You may pretend it is not there. But truth does not leave. It stays quietly in the background, watching, waiting, allowing you time. Allah, in His mercy, does not force truth upon the heart immediately. He gives space. He gives chances. He gives reminders. Because Allah knows that sometimes we are not ready to face the truth all at once. So He introduces it gently, through a feeling, through unease, through a question that keeps returning. And many people respond by delaying. They say, I will deal with this later. I am not ready yet. Now is not the right time. And Allah allows this delay. Not because truth disappears, but because Allah is patient. However, patience does not mean cancellation. Truth does not expire. What changes is how it arrives. When truth is faced early, it comes softly. It feels like a reminder, a nudge, a gentle awakening. But when truth is avoided repeatedly, it grows heavier. Not because Allah becomes harsh, but because reality cannot be ignored forever. Truth is like a light. If you turn toward it early, it guides you gently. If you turn away from it for too long, it eventually blinds you when it finally reaches you. Allah does not want to shock you. That is why He warns you first. He places unease in your heart. Before consequences appear, He allows discomfort. Before damage becomes permanent, He sends reminders. Before loss arrives, but when all of these are ignored, truth still comes. It always does. Sometimes it comes through exhaustion, sometimes through regret, sometimes through loss, sometimes through pain, not as punishment, but as reality catching up. And many people say, I never saw this coming. But deep down, they did, because the heart warned them. The unease was there, the discomfort was there, the feeling of this isn't right was there, but it was delayed. Truth is not cruel, but it is honest. It does not care about comfort. It cares about alignment. Allah allows truth to surface in the way that gives the servant the greatest chance to return. Early return is gentle, late return is heavy. But return is always possible. This is why listening early is a mercy. When you feel that discomfort inside, that is truth arriving softly. It is Allah saying, look at this now, before it looks at you later. Because when truth is ignored long enough, it no longer asks for your attention. It demands it. And that demand can be painful. Allah does not want pain for you. That is why He sends signs first. A verse that suddenly hits you differently. A reminder that stays in your mind. A feeling that will not leave. These are invitations. They are gentle truths. They are saying, pause, reflect, adjust. But when these invitations are refused, truth does not disappear. It changes form. It arrives through consequences, and consequences speak louder than reminders. That is why some people only change after losing something important. Not because Allah wanted loss, but because truth had been delayed too long. Truth does not need anger to be effective. It needs honesty, and honesty becomes harder the longer truth is avoided. This is why Allah loves those who return early, those who listen when the reminder is still soft, those who do not wait for pain to force clarity, those who allow discomfort to guide them back. Because the same truth that feels heavy later feels freeing early. Early truth brings relief. Delayed truth brings regret. But both are still truth. And both are still mercy. Because Allah never allows a servant to remain lost forever without showing them the way back. He just changes how loud the message becomes. So when truth feels uncomfortable, do not run from it. That discomfort is truth knocking gently. It is asking for attention, not punishment. Listen now, so you do not have to listen later, when the lesson is harder. When truth is delayed, it does not disappear. It waits. And while it waits, life continues. You continue making choices. You continue walking a path. You continue building habits. And every step you take either brings you closer to the truth or farther from it. Truth is patient, but consequences are honest. They do not wait forever. Many people say later in life, I wish I had listened earlier. I knew something was wrong. I felt it in my heart That feeling was not imagination. It was not negativity. It was not weakness. It was truth arriving early. Allah was giving you a chance to correct the direction before the road became longer. But when truth is ignored, Allah allows the servant to experience the outcome of that delay, not to humiliate them, not to destroy them, but to awaken them, because sometimes the heart only listens. When life slows it down, sometimes the heart only reflects when comfort is removed, and sometimes truth only becomes clear when illusion collapses. This is not cruelty, this is reality. Allah does not punish hastily. He educates patiently, but education requires honesty. If reminders are ignored, Allah allows reality to teach. That is why some lessons come after exhaustion. You chase something for years only to realize it never gave peace. You hold on to a path only to feel empty at the end. You defend a choice only to see its cost clearly later. And people say, why did Allah let this happen? But Allah had been speaking all along through discomfort, through unease, through inner resistance. Truth was knocking quietly, and now it has entered loudly. This is why the Quran reminds us to reflect before regret arrives. Because reflection is light, regret is heavy. Reflection changes direction early, regret changes it late. But even late change is still accepted by Allah. That is His mercy. Allah does not close the door. When truth arrives forcefully, He still invites the servant back. But the journey back feels longer because the heart carries weight. Weight of regret, weight of I knew better, weight of mischances. And Allah knows this. That is why He prefers early return. Early truth is gentle. It comes as a thought, a reminder, a feeling. It does not break you. It guides you. Late truth is heavy. It comes as loss, as pain, as collapse of illusions. It shakes you. But even then, Allah is still guiding. The difference is how much healing is needed afterward. Allah does not want you to be broken before you return. That is why He sends unease early. That is why He places discomfort before destruction. That is why He allows truth to surface softly first. So when your heart feels disturbed, do not say, I'll deal with this later. Later is not guaranteed. Not because Allah is harsh, but because life is unpredictable. Truth today is lighter than truth tomorrow. Honesty now is easier than honesty after regret. Allah is inviting you to face reality while it can still heal, not after it wounds. And when you accept truth willingly, something beautiful happens. The fear of truth disappears. You realize truth was not your enemy. Avoiding it was. Truth does not destroy the heart. It frees it. It aligns it. It cleans it. It removes confusion and replaces it with clarity. Yes, truth can hurt at first, but it heals deeply. And Allah rewards those who accept truth early with peace, with clarity, with direction. And even those who return late are not rejected. Allah is still merciful. But the path would have been lighter had truth been accepted earlier. So my dear brothers and sisters, when truth comes softly, listen. When unease whispers, pause. When your heart warns you, reflect. Because truth will surface either gently or forcefully. And Allah, in His love, always prefers the gentle return. Choose it while it is still easy. Returning to Allah turns restlessness into peace. My dear brothers and sisters, peace is something every heart is searching for. Not excitement, not pleasure, not success. Peace. A calm feeling inside the chest, a sense of being settled, a feeling that you are where you are meant to be. And many people search for this peace in many places. They search for it in money, in relationships, in achievements, in attention, in control. But no matter how much they gain, something still feels missing, that is because peace is not found by adding more to life. Peace is found by returning the heart to where it belongs. The heart was created to be connected to Allah. When it is close to Him, even difficulties feel manageable. When it is far from Him, even comfort feels heavy. This is why restlessness disappears, not when problems end, but when the heart realigns. Many people think, if my life becomes easier, I will have peace. But Allah teaches us something different. Peace does not come when everything around you is fixed. Peace comes when something inside you is fixed. You may still have struggles, you may still have worries, you may still have responsibilities, but your heart feels steady. That steadiness comes from returning to Allah. Returning does not always mean a dramatic change. Sometimes it means honesty, admitting, oh Allah, I feel far. Sometimes it means humility, admitting, I tried to manage life without you. Sometimes it means surrender, admitting, I need you more than I admitted. And the moment the heart turns sincerely, Allah responds, not slowly, not reluctantly, immediately, because Allah loves. When His servant returns, the same heart that was restless begins to soften. The same chest that felt tight begins to open. The same silence that once felt empty begins to feel comforting. Not because life suddenly becomes perfect, but because the heart is no longer fighting its purpose. A heart that returns to Allah stops carrying unnecessary weight. It stops pretending. It stops proving. It stops competing. It rests. And rest is a form of peace. You see, much of our restlessness comes from trying to be in control, trying to plan everything, trying to guarantee outcomes, trying to protect ourselves from uncertainty. But the heart was never meant to carry that burden. Allah says, trust me. And when the heart trusts Allah, something changes. Worry becomes lighter. Fear becomes manageable. Uncertainty becomes acceptable. Not because answers are clear, but because Allah is trusted. This is why returning to Allah changes everything inside. You may still face the same problems, but they feel different. You may still walk the same path, but your steps feel steadier. You may still wait, but the waiting no longer feels empty because the heart is no longer alone. Many people misunderstand this return. They think returning to Allah means becoming perfect. It does not. It means becoming honest. Honest about weakness. Honest about need. Honest about mistakes. And Allah loves that honesty. He does not expect perfection. He expects sincerity. And sincerity opens the door to peace. This is why peace arrives quietly. Not as excitement, not as noise, but as calm. A calm that settles deep inside. You may notice it when you pray, when you make dua, when you sit in silence. The heart feels lighter and you realize something important. The restlessness was not because life was hard. It was because the heart was distant. And now that the heart has returned, even difficulty feels meaningful. This is the peace Allah gives. Not a peace that removes trials, but a peace that carries you through them. And once you taste this peace, you understand why Allah calls His servants back again and again. Because nothing replaces this feeling. Not wealth, not status, not praise, just closeness to Allah. And Allah gives this peace generously to those who return early, to those who return late, to those who stumble many times. As long as the heart turns sincerely, peace follows. That is Allah's promise. A disturbed heart is better than a silent one. My dear brothers and sisters, never be afraid of a heart that feels disturbed. Never be afraid of a heart that questions itself. Never be afraid of a heart that feels uneasy. Fear the heart that feels nothing. Because a heart that feels discomfort is still alive. A heart that feels restless is still awake. A heart that feels disturbed by wrong is still connected to truth. Many people think peace means never feeling uncomfortable. But that is not true. Sometimes discomfort is the greatest sign of guidance. Sometimes a disturbed heart is closer to Allah than a heart that feels calm in disobedience. You see, when the heart is alive, it reacts. It reacts to distance from Allah. It reacts to wrong choices. It reacts to misalignment. And that reaction is not weakness, it is awareness. But when the heart becomes lost, it stops reacting. Wrong feels normal. Distance feels ordinary. Silence feels fine. And that is dangerous because the heart no longer resists. A restless heart still resists. It still says, this is not who I am. This is not where I belong. This is not what I was created for. That resistance is a blessing. Many people around you may appear calm. They may laugh easily. They may seem confident. They may look successful. But inside, their hearts may be silent. Not peaceful, silent. And silence of the heart is not peace. It is disconnection. Allah created the heart to respond, to feel joy when close to Him, to feel discomfort when far from Him. So when your heart feels disturbed, it means it still recognizes Allah. It still remembers Him. It still longs for alignment. And that longing is priceless. Some people say, I wish I didn't feel this way. But you should say, Alhamdulillah, I still feel. Because feeling means guidance, is still active. Feeling means Allah has not abandoned you. Feeling means your soul is still fighting for itself. A disturbed heart is better than a silent one because a disturbed heart can return. A silent heart does not even realize it is lost. That is why Allah allows discomfort to stay. He does not rush to remove it because that discomfort keeps the heart awake. It keeps you questioning. It keeps you reflecting. It keeps you searching. And searching is better than settling for emptiness. Sometimes people say, I just want my heart to be calm. But calm without truth is not a gift. It is a test. Calmness while doing wrong is far more dangerous than discomfort that pushes you to change. That discomfort is a form of care. It is Allah saying, your heart still matters. You are not done yet. You are not forgotten. And Allah gives this sign to those He wants to guide. Not everyone receives it. Some people live years in wrong without feeling any resistance. That is not success. That is loss. So when your heart feels heavy, do not rush to escape it. Sit with it. Ask yourself gently, why does my heart feel this way? Because that question can change your life. The disturbed heart is asking to be heard, not silenced, not numbed, not distracted, heard. Allah placed that feeling inside you so you would stop running and start listening. And when you listen, clarity begins. You begin to see things differently. You begin to notice what drains you. You begin to notice what pulls you away from Allah. You begin to notice what no longer fits your soul. And that awareness is growth. It may feel uncomfortable, but it is necessary. Growth does not happen in numbness. Growth happens in awareness. That is why Allah allows the heart to be disturbed. Because disturbance precedes direction, confusion precedes clarity, restlessness precedes return. And every return begins with a heart that refuses to stay silent. So my dear brothers and sisters, do not ask Allah to remove the disturbance immediately. Ask Him to guide you through it. Ask Him to show you what it means. Ask Him to help you respond correctly, because that disturbance is not meant to stay forever. It is meant to move you, to shift you, to wake you, to bring you back. And when you finally respond, the heart changes. The disturbance softens, the heaviness lifts, the confusion clears, and you realize something powerful. That discomfort was not your enemy. It was your protection. It was your reminder. It was your mercy. My dear brothers and sisters, if you are still here, this message was meant for you, not because of the words, but because your heart was willing to listen. That unease you've been feeling was never your enemy. It was a sign that your heart is still alive, still aware, still capable of returning. Do not rush back into noise now. Sit with what you feel, because clarity often arrives quietly and leaves just as quietly when we ignore it. If this message brought discomfort, that's not a bad thing. It means truth touched something real. And if it brought peace, that is Allah being gentle with your heart. Wherever you are right now in life, remember this: as long as your heart still feels, the door back to Allah is still open always. May Allah grant us hearts that listen, the courage to respond, and the peace that comes from returning sincerely. Ameen.